to D on the Couch. And if you're new to my channel, a very warm welcome to yourselves. So today we would like to talk about mentoring, and in particular, mentoring Black youth. And to help us make sense of this, I have invited two guests on my channel, Ben and Michael. So I'll go to Ben first. Can you please properly introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Hi, good afternoon, Dee and Michael. Yes, my name is Ben Oloya. I am actually, my background is engineering, mechanical and electrical engineering, and that's where I work at the moment. But also in my part-time or pastime rather, I do volunteering and charitable work. And that's how I ended up as a mentor in the Northwest, especially. So
okay.
that's just a brief thing about me. Yeah.
Okay, and then off to you, Michael. Can you properly introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself as well?
Hi, I'm Michael Okello. I work as an IT consultant stroke test analyst. And I had the opportunity to meet up with someone who was actually mentoring children. And I did an interview for her and realized that there are a lot of soft skills from my work environment that can actually be transposed onto the youth growing up, which will help them shape them up. And then that actually dragged me into mentoring. And then I joined up with Ben, and we like to go up north and help mentor the children up there.
Okay, may I just say that this is very admirable and noble undertaking on both your parts. So you have told us, Michael, how you ended up mentoring. How about yourself, Ben? How did you come to join this mentoring program?
Well, yeah, actually, I introduced Michael. So I'm a trustee in charity organization called Mind, Body, and Soul. And Mind, Body, and Soul spreads mental health awareness within the Black ethnic minorities. So when I met the founder, we had an interview just like Michael did, but Michael came up to me obviously, and we talked about various things and our roots and things like that. So, and judging from the work that she already was doing at the time, I thought that there was a big gap that I could fit in, and perhaps try and help her in our work.
Okay. So what is the objective of mentoring? Oh, first of all, just for clarity's sake, can you tell us what does mentoring entail?
Right, Michael, do you want to go first, or do you want me to say a little bit?
Okay, well, I can go for that. Mentoring is actually just kind of like helping someone understand the options available to them. Because a lot of times, especially as young people, you're kind of like caught in a narrow vision situation. So what mentoring tries to do is actually open up all the opportunities available for you, and then try and make you make the best decision, and also permit you to learn and grow. Because mentoring is not about, this is not about actually getting someone under your wing and teaching them to be, for example, a footballer or a musician. But mentoring is more like getting someone under your wing and helping them explore themselves, obviously in the right direction so that they end up doing good. And then you try, and the best way about it is you help someone actually open up opportunities which may be available to them and they think is actually closed. And that actually is the key point of mentoring, in that we try to make better human beings.
Okay. So in effect, you're providing it's some kind of influence and guidance to these young people.
Well, yes, because we have to understand the level of influence and guidance your parents can give you is limited.
Right.
And this is where mentoring plays a big role, in that you can actually give an alternative view and influence them, especially if it is done in the right way. Because I can mentor you and teach you how to drive a car, but if you go and steal a car and use those skills, it is not the problem of mentoring, because the intentions were good.
Yes.
So most parents would be like, oh, but why did you teach my child to drive a car? It's
but it wasn't with the intention that he should go and steal, surely.
Exactly. So, and that is where it comes to it, that I think what mentoring does, it helps fill those gaps that the parental responsibility
channels you in the right direction. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
It helps in that way.
Right. So in the absence of maybe positive role models at home, that's where mentors come in.
I would not say in the absence, but then it is most noticeable when there's an absence of positive role models at home.
Okay.
Like you can have more than one positive role model, because as a child, or when you're even as an adult, sometimes you don't really know what you want. And it's good to look at have good role models around you.
Okay.
Rather than having no role models at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So back to you, Ben. What is the importance of mentoring, and what impact have you personally witnessed with your organization?
Right. So we've obviously done a few seminars since I joined in and became a part of this organization. But the most recent and noticeable one was working with the Merseyside Police Department, and this was actually the first time in the UK that any police department in the UK has done such a thing. So what they did was they invited us to take to them 10 youths, and obviously, so that they could have a week-long experience of what the police does. And this was something that, of course, we had, Michael and I had discussed before, because of the rising knife crimes and all sorts of crimes, especially within the the Black community and the Black youth. So and also the perception of these youth towards the police. So inviting us was a big thing, and where I saw a significant shift of perception was at the beginning of the week, when when we started this work program, work placement, as they call it. These kids were very tense, and they had all sorts of perception, and I remember when at the briefing, when we got to the headquarters, the police officer who was leading this program, was going around asking, okay, so would you ever want to join the police? No. And they, almost 9 out of 10 said, no, I wouldn't. Yeah. But
did they give a reason why?
Well, said, because, being a Black kid and, the police are always going to be biased, why are we being arrested and all that?
Right,
all sorts of reasons anyway. So, but as the week grew, because we were taken to various departments, we went to the traffic police, we went to the mounted police, we went to crime investigation, so, but each time they attended a session with the various departments, they actually enjoyed it. And because these were like, it wasn't like made up. These were not, these were officers who were actually, called to come and do presentation. They were just off duty for that time. So it gave the kids assurance and also an insight of how the police works.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but anyway, not to elaborate so far too much. By Friday, when we finished, and the same questions were asked, almost everybody wanted to, to join the play. So, which I found very amusing and also in a good way, because, it was good to see that they, after seeing what, the insight, the makeup of the police, as a unit or as part of law keeping in the UK. It's not just a case of going out arresting people. Yeah, yeah. And then quickly, just there was part of the session. One of the session was, they played a video for us, and the kids were divided into groups, and so there was this guy who had just come out of prison. They played a video, and then the kids were to play the role of a policeman. And in the end, they were to make a decision whether to arrest the guy or not. So imagine that, at the beginning they were saying that, oh yeah, why are the police stopping, black, black youths or people of black, all the time and arresting them. But this was them being faced with that decision. Right. And guess what? Most of them said that, oh yes, we would definitely arrest. And this particular person was actually a white person. So, and they said, no, yes, we would arrest. No, we wouldn't arrest it. So it was kind of interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So did you see that a little bit of the mistrust dissipated over that week?
Well, definitely. And Michael will witness it, because Michael is going to do the mentoring this time round, this year. So he will probably have a similar experience. I think the reassurance from the police, themselves actually made the kids want to be a part of it, because they realize that it's not just a case of stopping somebody. It's also making a good judgment before you take that decision.
Okay. And also, if you want to make changes, I suppose it's better to be within that system in order to
yes change. And that was Michael, actually, if you can say something about being within to be able to make decisions and make changes. Maybe Michael can explain a little bit about that.
Okay.
It's something that actually we have been discussing with Ben for quite a period of time. And then it's the realization that as immigrants to this country, we view things differently to how the normal Black person in this country views things. And whereas we see opportunities in some areas, they actually see blockers and they see hurdles. And for us, the main issue was we don't want our children to grow up with that same mentality.
Right.
So in order to do that, we actually need to expose to them the usefulness of this so-called system.
Right. And
you have to be a part of it if you need to actually change it.
Right.
Now, typical is the police training. We just think police are against Black people. But when you then have to look at the processes, they're all like safety checks. It's not perfect. But once you look at the process where the police have to go to before they can even decide to arrest someone, you then do realize that actually it's better to be part of the system than out of it, because a lot of us, it is plainly down to ignorance.
Okay.
It is ignorance. Ignorance then breeds on, when you're building a castle of untruths, you'll never go anywhere.
Okay, I'd like to say something about that. I don't think that these sentiments come out of nowhere. I think if you look at the media and a lot of arrests that we've witnessed that have been unjustified, or brutality against Black people, so you can understand where these sentiments come from. But where I agree with you is that if you want to effect change, then you have to be within the system. But I don't necessarily agree that their sentiments are born out of ignorance.
Well,
okay.
Well,
Michael,
let me say something.
Yeah.
Dee, in the news recently, a young Black woman or a young Black girl in school was strip searched for drugs, right?
Right. Is that, you're talking about child Q?
Well, one of those kids.
I think it was, yeah.
It raised a lot of issues, right? And I then realized that, look, we're all complaining that it was actually wrong for the police to do what they did, but there must have been suspicion that she was on drugs. And that suspicion is normally because you smell of drugs.
Okay.
Right? So we have to permit that, we have to allow that people do actually make mistakes.
Right.
And people do actually make assumptions which are wrong. Now the issue is this. Are you going to blame me, the police officer, for searching you and strip searching you because I cannot find drugs on your on your clothing? On your person? I can smell it off you. So but I think now, when I then strip search you, the issue then becomes, oh, why did you strip search a 13-year-old girl? So we altogether push away the issue of the drugs, right? And we concentrate on the issue that she was strip searched. I'm not saying that is right or wrong, but as a parent, when I confront my daughter, I would try to find out how many times have you been going to school stinking of weed? Because that in itself is more dangerous than being strip searched once. Now, when we blow it out, now that is what I call hard ignorance, because we hear the story, but bias just forces us to narrow down without truly looking through all the available evidence. Now, that is something which a lot of people will say, no, it's okay. I don't really know. But personally, I would not want my 13-year-old daughter going into class smelling of weed.
No, absolutely not. And I get you on that point. But I think the uproar was the fact that this young girl was searched without an appropriate adult present. I mean, if you suspect that someone's, carrying drugs on them, where they shouldn't have drugs on them, then absolutely, yes, they should be subjected to a search, but without the consent of a parent. This is a young girl.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
In a situation where they've called the cops to the school, we talk about there being no adults.
Right.
But you have 2 adult police women strip searching you. How can we say they're not adults?
It's not an appropriate adult, though. For a child, should you
not
have an appropriate adult as a parent?
Our main concern, right, is not that they found nothing on her. Our main concern is not that she was reeking of drugs. Our main concern is there's not an appropriate adult. Really? Really?
Well,
really?
Well, I would not.
In that situation, she wasn't charged. Nothing was found. Right? Nothing was found. We're not addressing the issue of her drug involvement. We're just all concentrating and making uproar about lack of an appropriate adult. I would understand if they tried to charge her in that maybe they planted something on you. Now, to build that trust, right? I'm not a doctor. If my doctor tells me I've got cancer, I will believe it. I'll take the tablets he gives me. If my doctor makes a mistake, I'll keep on taking those tablets until someone else we have to have a bit of trust. And I think that is why I say that because we came as immigrants, we saw opportunities where people see blockers. Some of these blockers are mental blockers you ignorantly put in front of you, which have no relevance to the situation in place.
Why
and that is why I say that it is good to be within the system. Then we can start removing these mental blockers.
Which I agree. I definitely agree
Yes.
with more Black people or ethnic minorities being within the system and trying to effect change.
Yes.
But my view is you cannot make requirements for an appropriate adult to be present during the search of a minor and then totally disregard that. But I think we're going off topic now because our topic today
is for
about
another day. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
But I'm glad that we had this discussion.
I'll tell you something which is very on topic.
Yes.
Right? We're having a board meeting and you're the marketing director and you have young children. Right?
Right.
We shall postpone the meeting from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock to permit you to drop your kids to school. Right?
Right.
Without you being in the meeting, all our meetings will be at 9 o'clock. But the fact is that as a woman among men, we shall now become aware that you need to drop your children to school. And then gradually within our company, we can then start making provisions because we've actually seen that we actually do wait for you before we can have our meetings. Then we can actually effect change within the company. But if we're still stuck as 3 men in the boardroom, we would never address the issue that some women need to actually start coming in late because they need to drop their children to school. Why? Because I've either got a maid or my wife who does that for me. So sometimes I need to be exposed to things for me to change the system to make it better for you. Now, what mentoring does is something similar. As adults, we'll try and expose some little things to the children.
Right.
For example, you don't want your child to be a policewoman, but because she's joined us and seen what the police do, and actually realized that there are a lot of things I can do within the police, she can then gradually go in and join the police service. So the mentoring we're trying to do is not only for the bettering of people, but it's also in recognition of the mental issues. And a lot of it is just mental issues or mental blockers. Right. And that's why we say we try and enlighten people.
Right.
We don't have all the answers.
No.
The good thing with mentoring is when someone is receptive, you can push them out to go and look for the answers. And luckily, if you don't know this, we live in a country where we have all the answers if we look for it.
Right, right. And that's the main thing. You have to be receptive.
Yeah.
To what's being shared with you. Okay, right. So back to Ben now. Without such programs, can you describe, in your opinion, what you think the future of these mentees would be like?
Well, you know, in a way, I think if as parents, we've got a role on how to bring up our kids, especially within, you know, the Black and ethnic minority. Right. You know, like Michael said, because we are immigrants here, there is always going to be what I would class as culture clash, because our children are born here, and to some extent they are torn between the you know, our culture, the parents, and the culture that they know that they are growing in.
Yes.
And that is what causes a lot of confusion. So, you know, programs like this, and also one that, you know, I've done with Michael as well, was talking about our roots, you know, where we came from, you know, as growing up as young kids in Uganda, and then moving here, and how difficult it was for us to actually make that transition. but the most important thing was for us that we've kept in touch with our roots.
Right.
And that's why, sometimes you find yourself maybe doing certain things that, an ordinary or, somebody that has lived here all their life would not do to their children, because you know that what you went through as you were growing up, the type of discipline that you went through, was what actually shaped you to become who you are now, And so we can go, blaming our children that, oh yes, you're not behaving in the right manner. It's because they're torn, they're torn between this environment and also learning something about where the parents come from. So what part of the program that we are trying to organize is that if we can maybe arrange for some youth, maybe it will not be the same 10, but some youth between the ages of 10 and 18, take them to Uganda for 2 weeks, let them experience the atmosphere, the environment, and also plant them into people's home with children of similar ages. Let them see how those children treat their parents and respond to their parents, and how their parents treat those children. That can kickstart something. Because I think sometimes when you're trying to tell your child, oh, in this country, they think you're just making, you probably just came up with it from somewhere else. Yeah.
No, they don't understand it at all.
Well, yeah. So when they go and see it, it's better for them. Yeah. They then start understanding, where they come from.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. That sounds like an awesome idea, actually. Okay, Michael, let's talk about representation.
Yeah.
How important is representation to a mentee? And when I say representation, I mean seeing somebody who's had the same lived experience as yourself succeed.
I think the best answer I can give in that is, Ben, when we went to Liverpool for the first event about 2 years ago, and we're actually leading the kids, one of the things that the children mentioned for us, or to us, was the lack of role models.
Right.
Not only that, there was also the feeling that parents don't understand what they're going through. Because a lot of the parents were also immigrants older than us who had children here. So they're used to a different environment. So these kids were also experiencing challenges. Now, the only way you can actually get over your challenge is by seeing someone who's gone through something similar and has come out the other side.
Right.
So by me and Ben actually standing up, because we had the police officers came and made their talks. We had a few guys from the NHL came and made their talks. And they actually surprised that these two people from London, Black people from London, sacrificed their time and to come and talk.
Right.
And the kids are actually able to open up, because when they then realize we actually do totally different jobs, we're not your regular run-of-the-mill kind of people they admire, like singers, rappers, or roadmen or entertainers. Then they started to open up and explore what they were good in, what they were talented in. I like numbers. Some kids are very good in numbers. Others were very good in talking, debating. Then they started coming out of their shell.
Right.
And that is the importance of actually having role models, being able to see someone who is of your same, for want of a better word, being able to see someone of your same color, not only existing, but thriving in a world which you think is beyond you.
Right.
And that is what mentoring actually does help, because it helps people thrive and achieve things which they maybe thought is actually beyond them. There's no really any point mentoring someone who already knows they want to be a doctor and are putting in that effort.
Right.
Mentoring works best when you find the person who plays around and knows medical stuff but they're unsure. And then if you actually do show them that, you know what, you can actually be a black doctor, or you could be a black pilot.
Yeah.
Because we're all talented differently.
Yeah.
So by them saying someone like them, it makes it actually easier to know that, you know what, they're actually there on merit and they're thriving. I can do the same. A lot of us, like you say, the stereotypes or the blaming of the system, why should I go there? They'll just use me. So when you start off on the negative path in the first place, you'll always end up negative. So what mentoring does is it sets you on the positive path.
Right.
And you'll always end up positive anyway.
Right.
And that is the beauty with giving examples, saying people of your own color or your own tribe, your own countrymen,
your own background. Yeah.
your own background. There's so many things. You could be white and wonder, how does this person fit in the Black community? Why does everybody like him? Right? But because it does exist there, you may feel, you know what, I want to have my hair in dreads as well, and you would fit in as well. And that's what mentoring does actually help too, and especially when there's someone you can see of your own background, someone you can relate to.
Okay.
So
it
that
makes it more, I was going to say, it makes it more authentic and more genuine, more relatable.
And we spoke about the word receptive earlier on. It takes away the master servant kind of indivisible boundaries, teacher student, because as the mentee, you become more receptive because this guy must know what he's talking about. He's just like me.
Yeah.
That's what,
there's a trust.
most of the kids will say.
Trust there.
That's what most of the kids will say. He must know what he's talking about. He's just like me. Whereas if I came in, I was like, no, young man, you have to do. He'll be like, no, he's just talking.
Yeah.
So it makes the mentees even more receptive.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And Ben.
Yeah.
Can you answer the same question, please? How important do you think representation is to a mentee? You may have a different perspective to Michael.
Right. So, like, I think I'll just add on to what Michael said, really. I think when you see, a young kid that probably was somehow getting lost in the way, and then, you try and challenge them in the right direction. And you see the improvement, not just in their character, in their behavior, but also perhaps, their perception towards going back to school, if they were maybe skipping school or doing activities that they know will give them a better future. That is the satisfaction right there. For me, it's as simple as that, because for mentoring or for that kind of representation to work, you need that you need that positive progress. They have to have that. Of course, as well. I think like when you invite, like we did, we invited these kids to come for the seminar. Of course, some were edgy because they don't know what to expect.
Exactly.
And some didn't want to come out and speak because they thought that they would be judged. But of course, when they hear, or maybe one of their peers, stands up and starts talking, and there is no judgment, and and they're expressing themselves, that brings that hidden bit out of them as well.
Yeah, it encourages them.
Yes. So and from our point of view, that is really what makes it very, very reassuring for us, and also fulfilling. That okay, what we are doing is actually, it's not just a good thing, but it's something that is changing people's lives.
Yeah, I can't think of anything more rewarding than giving, your time, your energy, resources to actually help the future generation. Very admirable indeed.
You know, and for this, you know, like with the seminar, for that duration of time, we are doing the child minding anyway, you know, because we've got all these kids, you know, their parents, most of their parents just come and, you know, dump them there.
Yes.
But with the trust that, look, I'm leaving my child here, you know, with the hope that, you know, when they come out, they're going to have a different perception of what, you know, what I've been seeing with them. And you know, I would say 9 out of 10 times, these kids go back home and the parents, you know, will come up and say, oh my goodness, you know, what have you done to my child? And, you know, and
with
actually,
gratitude.
Yes, exactly. So, and the positive comments are there on our website, on, you know, MBS website. So, you know, for anybody who wants to, you know, to go and have a look at what, you know, the kind of work that we do, they can go to www.cphmindbodyandsoul.org.uk, and you know, you'll find all sorts of programs that, you know, we've done in the past, and future programs that are in the pipeline as well.
Okay, great. So final word from Michael before we wrap this up.
Final word. Thanks for inviting us.
Oh, it was a pleasure.
It kind of like helps pass the message, because I think, I didn't want to say this, but I'll say it as a fact. A lot of our young Black youth, especially, Black male role models, and the same thing actually does apply to a lot of our young Black women as well. And sometimes by mentoring, I know, like when we went, for example, to Liverpool, but when you mentor people, you actually do present them with other role models as well, although, you know, the parents, which is actually a very good contribution. I think more Black people should start doing that, because we then start filling the big gap of absent parents. And mentees can do, people who do mentoring can do that.
Thank you so much, Michael and Ben, for joining me on my show. I'm sure very many people will be interested to watch this, learn more about mentoring, and maybe even become mentors themselves. So thank you for listening. I'll see you next time on On the Couch. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.